now, but we'll put it up higher or something.
Or say, you're with the chair.
Yeah, that might be good. All right, we'll get going. We'll call to order this regular meeting of the Town Superior Planning Commission for February 2nd, 2010. Phyllis, you call the roll, please.
Sure. Chairperson John Creeper,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Jason Hinkle,
Here.
Commissioners Clint Olson,
Here.
Fellow Sergeant here, James McGinnis, Bob McCool,
Here.
Craig Prestisator,
Here.
Michelle Whitmaster, Tom Ricker,
Here.
Assistant Town Manager Mike Manley,
Here.
Connor Flipox,
Here.
Attorney Carissa Eckhout. Here.
Okay, thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is public comment on consent agenda and non-agenda items. Anyone in the public's opportunity to come forth and address the commission on items both on the consent agenda and non-agenda items.
The public is just entering.
Yeah, I see that the public is entering. We're at the item 3, public comment on consent agenda and non-agenda items. So if anyone would like to come forth, they can. If not, we will move on to item 4, the consent agenda, of which there is nothing. 1 minute for this week. With that, we'll move on to item 5, new business, a public hearing for the Guardian Storage Solutions FDP. We will go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there proof of publication?
Yes, there is. There's also proof of publication of the vested rights, which is not mentioned, but it is on here. Okay.
Okay.
Are we okay with televisions? Getting ready?
He was.
It looks like
So
something's
now-
going wrong. Technical.
Do we want to wait a second just to see
Yeah,
if we... Yeah, okay. The sponsors are going to kill us. That we've gone off the air, so we've already done it. Back. Okay. Does the applicant have a presentation? Please, and start off by stating your name and your address, please.
Okay. Kevin Cohen, 635 4 Mile Canyon Drive, Boulder, Colorado, 80302. Usually I get an intro from Matt or Scott, but we don't need one tonight? Okay.
It's all right.
All right. Well, thank you, Planning Commission, for the opportunity to present tonight. It's been a long road for us, so we're really happy to be moving forward on the approval for the final development plan. And I was asked to be brief tonight since, we're really here to discuss our plan and not necessarily the use. So I really want to get to the meat of it and focus on the site plan and the elevations. But obviously, of course, I'm here to answer questions about any questions you might have about the company, about our operations, or anything that we may have reviewed in previous meetings. Guardian Storage Solutions, we've been in the business for 22 years, developing, constructing, owning, and operating state-of-the-art developments that really cater to high-end residential and the commercial customer base that you have in this area. of about 1 million square feet of storage developed in western Pennsylvania, and we also have one property in Westminster, Colorado at 92nd Avenue and Wadsworth, and this would be our second property in Colorado. And we're really focused on delivering storage solutions that are superior in architecture, landscaping, and customer service. Sorry for the pun. Just a little bit of the history. I'm sure you guys all know this. Our annexation agreement and our preliminary plan development and zone district plan were approved on February 23rd, 2009. And Matt, please correct me if my dates are wrong. And the final plat was approved on March 9th, 2009 by the town board. So some of the features that we've presented in the past that I just wanted to touch on briefly because they're going to be incorporated into the development in addition to the landscaping and the architecture that we'll talk about tonight. The amenities are every single storage unit on the property will be individually alarmed. We have extensive video and audio surveillance so that customers have peace of mind that their belongings or inventory is safe. We have covered loading docks, climate-controlled space, particularly for the commercial customer base, interior carpeted hallways and units, use of a free moving truck. We have a business service center built into the project for the commercial customers so they can get online, copy, fax, whatever the situation might be. And the incubator flex space, which is 5 units, that's really trying to provide something in this development for the individual entrepreneur or business person looking for an all-in-one office and storage space. And another thing we've talked about in the past is some of the green development initiatives that we'll be incorporating. The most significant one is that we offset 100% of our electricity use through the purchase of wind power. And as far as I know, I think we're the only storage company in the state of Colorado that makes this type of commitment to the environment through such a purchase. Some of the other features are low E glass in the windows, low VOC paint, recycled steel for our building, recycled cabinetry for our office finishes, recycled carpet in the hallways, we recycle our concrete. We used motion detector lighting throughout the property, which is good for the environment and helps, with any light pollution that might exist. Non-water usage toilets, and we do segregate our waste during construction so that those items that can be recycled are. So, proposed site, I think you all know where it is. Highway 36 to the north, Marshall Road to the north, and 76th Street to the right. And the property is obviously outlined in black. So, this is our previous site plan, and this is what we presented during our annexation and zoning approvals. It was 5 buildings built in 3 phases. And one of the concerns that was expressed by the neighbors as well as by certain members of the town was the density of the project and also the proximity to the property line to the south. So despite the fact that this preliminary plan was approved, we took the opportunity to kind of take a step back, reevaluate the project, and see if we could come up with something that would still be economically viable, of course, to us as operators and make the project worth pursuing, but also see if we could come up with something that would address some of the concerns that the neighbors and others had during those public meetings. So this is the new site plan that we are submitting as part of the final development plan. You can see it's 3 buildings, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in a second, but just to summarize what the significant modifications were from the preliminary development plan to what we're presenting today, we've reduced the number of buildings on the site from 5 buildings to 3. In doing so, we've eliminated approximately 20,000 gross square feet of finished floor area. This allowed us to increase the setback from the southern property line, which neighbors the residential, from 55 feet to 109 feet. We increased the setback from the north property line from 104 feet to 117 feet. These changes also increased the total open space on the property from 20.7% to 36.2%, or a total of approximately 32,000 square feet of open space. And finally, the new configuration from an operation standpoint allows better circulation throughout the site by widening the drive lanes from 28 feet to 30 feet. So just to go back to the site plan, is there a pointer by any chance? Or? So, a lot of the same concepts, but it's 3 buildings. Our plan is to phase it in 2 phases. The first phase would consist of the northern half of Building 1, including the 5 incubator spaces, and all of Building 2. Phase 2 would consist of the southern half of Building 1, which is just additional storage, and all of Building 3. And one of the main reasons we do this is it allows us to evaluate what the community is renting, what they're demanding, and then it gives us a chance to refine our unit mix for the future phase so we can better meet the community's needs. So the entrance will come from the improvements on the road to the north. The entrance to the property and exit to the property will be right here. The leasing office, where space will be actually leased and business will be operated from, is on the corner here. Again, the 5 spaces, incubator office spaces, are right here. There will be a mix of office space on the front with climate-controlled storage on the back so that the tenant can essentially go back and forth between their office and their storage space on the back. The storage space would be behind the gated area, so it would be secured that way. Building 2 is a 2-story building. It does not have an elevator because it makes grade from east to west, so somebody could drive up at grade on level 1 and then drive up around at a higher elevation to floor 2. We also have a covered loading dock cut out for Building 2, as well as a 4-foot loading dock to accommodate, a 50-foot truck that needs additional loading capabilities. In Building 3, will be a combination of drive-up storage units and interior units. Tenant will come in, access their unit, and the exit gate will be right here where they would punch in a code, which would disarm, or rather, when they punch in here, it would disarm the alarm on their storage unit. They come into the property. They exit here. When they punch in a code, it actually rearms the storage unit and allows them outside of the gate. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our architect, Tom Seibert, who will talk a little bit more about the actual architecture features and the landscaping we've done.
My name is Tom Seibert, 1735 South Humboldt Street, Denver, Colorado. I think Kevin did a great job presenting the site plan and the changes we did make. I hope you did notice that we really did increase the landscaping, especially on the south side. We really increased the setback, and so we were really had a nice opportunity to kind of spread out the landscaping, add landscaping, really provide nice screening for the drive-up dock, and then we also added landscaping, shrubs and trees along 76. We pretty much kept it all the same to the north and to the west. We're really hitting the numbers, and as you can see, we really don't have any more space to put any more landscaping. We've got so much. The architecture, our whole approach has really been to be contextual in our approach, really fit into the buildings that are surrounding us, and we really wanted to match the rich materials that are used throughout the area. We're really looking at grounding our buildings, the base courses of the buildings. We go about 4 feet off the finished floor, and it wraps around the entire all 4 sides of each of the buildings with the dark charcoal split-face block that you see right here. Then that's broken up with a band of a light gray CMU, a 4-inch band, to separate it from the either red split-face block. My pointer's not working so well. Here, and sandstone, which you can see on this tower element, and then we've got the red brick, or the red split-face block next to it. And so you can see that here this is the red split-face block, and then we've got the home CMU, gray CMU, which is a 4-inch band, as I said, separates the two. And we've got lion sandstone to match what you've got locally. Then this tan field that you see is a stucco, and you can see that color is this tan stucco here. We really kind of wanted to break up and create another kind of an identity for these flex spaces, so they're highly recognizable from 76, and each user has its own kind of individual feel to it. And you can see that elevation is right here on the east elevation. Each one has its own separate entrance with storefront and a door, and we're just kind of highlighting those with a corrugated metal panel above each one of those, and you can see that colors this right here. Finally, the tower. We really want to kind of bring the whole corporate identity into the buildings, into the project as well, and so we wanted to splash a little bit of color in their kind of corporate guardian blue into the roofs of the two towers, and the towers are on the east and west of Building 1 and Building 3, and you can see that blue color is on the third floor here. I think that's all I've got. Jim Brostwitz is here to answer any civil questions. Okay, any engineering questions?
Okay, that's it. So do any members of the Planning Commission have questions of the applicant? In no particular order?
On the phasing, you're phasing two buildings. Is there anything else to get phased, landscaping, any hardscape that you're not putting in? Is the only phasing the actual buildings themselves, or?
Well, we will need to put in all of the drives to
Right.
get our circulation around. So I guess the answer is no, we will not be phasing the drives or the site utilities or the landscaping.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose if the town was willing to let us phase the landscaping, we'd be open to it, but we thought we would have to put it in all up front, so.
Okay. And then on the, I think it's the north elevation, you have several spots for signage.
Yes.
Are you going to, I mean, is the plan to put signs, or why is signage necessary on each and every building?
Well, we have not fully, evaluated exactly what our signage is going to be and where we're going to put it. The site has its challenges in terms of visibility from Highway 36, in that it's 700 feet or so off the highway. Visibility is very important in our business, just so people know we're in the neighborhood, because drive-by traffic is our number one source of how we get business leads. So we wanted to give ourselves some flexibility in the plan to sort of go out there, see where our sight lines were, and put signage in where we could. So, we did have this in the preliminary development plan. I would say our intention is not to fill all those areas with signage, but certainly we want to have enough so that people can see us, they know who we are, they know what our phone number is perhaps, and they know that we're in the area. But we were always told from day one that all signage, needed to be focused onto the north, so it wouldn't interfere or bother the residential to the south. So that's why we focused on the north elevation, and also that's where the traffic is.
Does the reduction in square footage change the economics at all from the town's perspective?
Yeah, and, well, do you want to answer that, or I can address it? Because that was the first thing. Before we made these changes, we sat down with Scott and Matt to get their opinion on how this would be received, and that was the first question that was asked by these guys. Given the way that the public facility fee, the point at which it's capped, so we pay the 3% up to a certain point in revenues, the incremental space that we had on the previous plan was far, I don't want to say far, it was beyond the cap income that would have been generated at that additional storage. So I guess the short answer is it will not affect the amount that would come to the town. And, honestly, we had such a big site that on the preliminary development plan, we probably developed a bigger project than we have ever had before. We had about 98,000 rentable square feet of storage in that preliminary development plan, which is significantly higher than any other site we've done. So it wasn't necessary, and we thought this provided a win-win situation for everybody, and the short answer is it will not affect the economics.
Thank you.
You mentioned the phasing was somewhat intended to give you a chance to get a feel for the market between the flex space and storage. I'm guessing your option that would differ from this is to have more flex space in building 1. Is that the right idea, or?
I mean, that's certainly one thing
The demand is high enough.
that we could consider. It's, if those rented up fast and stayed occupied, I think the city would probably welcome seeing more units go in, and we would be, if we rented them up quickly and they stayed rented, we'd have no problem with that. So I think that would be a possibility for the second phase. I don't know if that would require an amendment
I'll
to
ask
the
them.
plan. But sure, it's something we'd consider if it was doing well. It's a relatively new product for us, so we're kind of interested to see how it does in the market, but something we could consider.
Seems to match things I've been hearing about. So.
I'm sorry?
It seems to match market opportunities I've been hearing about as well, so be curious to see how it does.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
Okay.
Building 3, that tower that kind of is the twin to the one in Building 1, whether it happens on the north elevation or the west elevation, what exactly is going to happen in that corner tower? Are you going to use that as rentable space? What's going on there?
I honestly think they're monuments or decoration to fit in with the towers that are in the marketplace to the east. I think on the site plan we may have it. Well, the one to the east on the corner at the entrance again will be our leasing office. So it'll be a 2-story leasing office. So that's it. The one on
Building 3.
Building 3, I think it might be listed as potential additional office space if the demand was there. We might even put an office for just our corporate operations there. But the plan as of now is it's really just an architectural element.
Building 3 is a 2-story building, too?
Single story.
Single story?
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of a little tough to decide. Is there a reason that you guys didn't use sandstone in place of the red split-face brick? I mean, looks like you're trying to do that side by side.
Our sandstone, I apologize for this, the reproduction of this image. Really, the red split-face masonry is limited, and I think it's not showing very clearly on this. The red brick is really these vertical elements here, 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 and here. See, we've really just kind of created a language using these as a vertical element on different boxes. And then we've got the sandstone in this field. We've got sandstones on both sides of these windows in those fields. We have sandstone continuous on this field, and the same thing on these towers. The flex unit, we're using sandstone between each one of the units. And then we go back to the red split face is really just the verticals that are separating the overhead doors, and then the verticals on these kind of lesser massed elements on the other buildings.
I just noticed it's like along the back west elevation was.
Yeah, and again, that's just kind of part of the language that we created. We're using it at the storage buildings, the single story storage buildings next to the doors. And then just on the west, it's just kind of the function of the building. We don't have overhead doors on the west.
Right.
And so I just continued the red split face there.
And that Guardian blue color is a custom color you guys have for those caps?
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of our corporate identity, and we realize that blue's not always the most desirable choice for development, so that's why, for the most part, it's been left out of development. Almost all of our storage doors on the property face to the interior. So to sort of keep consistent with our identity, you know, we tried to just incorporate it into the tower roof so that we had something in the presentation that was consistent with our brand.
And the glass is not going to be blue, it's going to be
It's just clear glass.
clear glass?
Yeah.
Okay. What were you guys?
Okay. Other questions?
I have a few. The flex space, is it, there are 5 spaces, what's the square footage for each of those roughly?
I think the entire unit's about 1,500 square feet, Tom, give or take. And our plan is to let the tenant specify the ratio of office to storage space. We're looking in the products that allow us to do that, but basically a movable partition between the office and flex in the storage space so that the customer can really refine and customize something that works for their needs.
Do you have any place for a bike lock or people who bike in that use the flex space or employees where they could lock their bikes?
I don't have the answer to that. I know in past projects there's a minimum requirement. I know in our Westminster project, like, we had to put at least 1 or 2 bike locations. So I didn't know if that's something that came during the construction phase or not, but it's something we could look at.
Okay, I would be interested in seeing that.
Okay. I think that's a good suggestion.
Is there signage for the incubator space, or is there an intent to allow the tenants to put a sign for their business above the door or on the door or by the door? What's the...
Yeah, and honestly, we haven't gotten to that level of detail on them, but I think that's absolutely something we would do. Nothing that would be illuminated probably, but just something that somebody coming to the incubator space would know which unit was theirs in addition to probably an individual address. We also, one thing that hasn't been mentioned is we also will have a monument sign. Do we have a location specified for it yet? Right here?
And I did have a question. There's a large sign. Is it intended to support the flex space, to advertise for them, or is it purely for the Guardian Storage logo?
That would just be for the Guardian Storage logo.
And so the access is time restricted, so 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Is that true for the flex space as well?
That's a great question. I think we would make an exception for those 5 people because it would be difficult to limit their office hours to 10 p.m. And just as an FYI for everybody, we choose access hours for our property that we think are convenient, but we don't believe in 24-hour access. We don't want people on the property at 1 in the morning, and we don't think it's the right thing to do for the neighbors, and we don't think it's the right thing to do for our other tenants. But that is, I think we would have to give them 24-hour access.
That was a concern.
Yeah.
I mean, as a business owner,
Absolutely.
If I got to run in and fix something at 1 a.m., then, it happens. So, okay. Is the area fenced? I know there's some, and then is the whole development fenced? Or
The entire property is either secured by a fence or by the back of the building. So it's a continuation of a perimeter that is secure all the way around the site.
The landscaping, the maturity that's on there now, is this shown at full maturity? And about how long will it take to? 35. Fair enough. Do you know what the landscaping?
I have spoken to the landscape architect, and these, of course, they're symbols for trees, and in fact, they're smaller in scale than what they will be at maturity. But she told me that they'll be mature between 10 and 20 years is the way what we've kind of shown them.
Okay.
But everything's planted to the town minimum caliper size and shrub size and tree size.
Okay. And then last question, if somebody does enter the site just prior to 10, is there, in the storage area and you close at 10, how are they?
They're locked in.
How do they get out? Yeah, how do they get out, or do you have staff that, obviously, I assume if you're in, you can get out. but,
Yes, that's correct.
So somebody could stay there till 1 in the morning and they're.
That's correct.
They would.
And we also have we have a message board basically at the keypads, so if they got into the property and something malfunctioned with the gate, there's emergency numbers that are called, which contact the manager first. If they don't get the manager, they probably call me, and then, we take care of it that way, so.
And what are the staffing hours that somebody will be, because you have a store there, right?
Yep. Typically, during the busy season, which is April through October, we'll go 9 to 6, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturday, and then, generally speaking, a few hours on Sunday. It kind of depends on the competitive landscape. Our preference is not to be open on Sundays, but just depends on the market, and we'll sort of figure that out as we go. But in Westminster, we're open from noon to 4 p.m. on Sundays. And then during the winter hours, we do reduce our office hours during the week, so it's 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday, and then noon to 4 on Sunday.
And my last is just a comment. I want to say I really appreciate the effort that you put to reduce the density, and especially the buffer on the south side. That was a concern of mine, and I'm very appreciative that you looked at that and made those changes, and also the effort that you put towards the recycling of materials and the attention you put to separating your waste, as you said earlier.
Thanks.
And also the wind power credits. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
I want to say I appreciate it.
On the site drainage issue with the building 2, you have is that a truck well that's on the side, on the south elevation of building 2? Or is that just a drive?
Jim Brostovich, Drexel Burrell, 1838th Street, Boulder. It is a 4-foot-high dock, but it drains from the dock, which is
Against the building.
at the left-hand side, drains out. So there's no
Okay.
drain at the bottom of the dock. It just
So that kind of slopes away?
correct.
Okay.
One more quick question. That sign on the northeast corner, is that positioned, is the goal there so that it will face 36, so that you're hoping for visibility for that sign, or is it going to, how is it positioned?
It'll basically face north-south. So basically, the purpose of the monument sign, it's not going to generate much visibility for us. It's so that somebody coming down 76th Street knows where our entrance is.
Okay.
Follow-up question about the fencing. You said that the back of the buildings would be the fence. Is that the case on Building 3?
Yeah, that was specifically what I was. Is there a fence actually down here? Because why don't you?
And I guess further, if Building 3 is in Phase 2, what's going to be the fencing in the interim?
We would have to do a temporary fence.
Okay.
The gate is here, and then it just runs along this flow line and returns turns, and then it returns into the building there and stops. And it picks up again on the south side, comes down, and then along the flow line, in front of his drive, and then the gate there. And it's an architectural metal fence. It's with black pickets on 6 inches on center. They're like half-inch pickets, and the intent is they really they disappear. You just lose them. You don't see them visually like chain link fence or anything like that.
Do you have any sense of phase 2? I mean, no later date, depending on market conditions. Do you have any sense of what you're thinking?
Yeah,
or
I
hoping?
do. I'm going off the top of my head here. I think the first phase is about 50,000 rentable square feet. That should take us through 2 years, hopefully not any longer. So the beginning of the phase 2 construction would begin roughly, about a year and a half into the project or so.
So, given the market is running as you hope, then
Exactly.
It sounds like it'll come pretty quick.
Yep.
Okay.
Other questions?
I just want to follow up on the monument sign. So if the monument sign is just for Guardian stuff, how are you going to sign the 5 flex space users? Did it happen already?
You just said that you can answer it again, I guess.
We would probably have signage above each individual door, some kind of nameplate or tag that could be slid in and out and customized for the individual flex space occupant, so that somebody would they'd describe it as we're at the Guardian Storage property. I'm office number 3, so they would see the monument sign, pull in the Guardian Storage, see the 5 units, and then see their individual sign.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Other questions?
I have a question that might be sort of staff related, but
You can ask it now. We're going to go through any staff presentation next. So
okay. Just keep it during the public hearing. But so 76 is a pretty heavy bike corridor, and as that develops, I think it would be good to start seeing bike lanes as that gets busier and we develop that. I don't know if that's something we do, whether we encourage if there's going to be street improvements done, if that's something that can be done and get started as we and put on the burden of the developers, whether that's a town thing. But I am interested in seeing as that develops and more traffic starts to develop on 76, to see that be formalized. It's plenty wide right now, and it's not really an issue, but as traffic increases, I think that becomes, it's just a paint. And
Yeah, that's something that we can discuss internally, set up a plan for.
okay. Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff have any presentation they would like to?
Yes, thanks. Just real quick, in addition to Carissa and Fred, Alex Arnello, the town's traffic consultants here, as well as Rick Gonzalez, our town engineer, for any questions that the planning commission might have. As was mentioned, this is a final development plan. It's a decision of the planning commission, which will be referred to the town board as a call-up item on their consent agenda. Right now, it's scheduled for February 22nd meeting. And Fred Fox has a staff presentation for us, and we're here for any questions you might have.
I'm not going to go over, I don't think the parts of the presentation that they made will regurgitate that. But I'll pick up on a couple of points. Once I was not quite sure how he ended up with the applicant in terms of their explanation about signs on the east facade. Right now, the plans do not show any signs there. Everything's on the north side. And it's very important that we identify what those sign bands, if they desire sign bands on the east side for the tenant, then We're gonna need to define that.
I don't think, and Kevin, you can clarify for us, but I don't think you were talking, what size of signs were you thinking about for discussion?
Well, I don't have an exact size, but we were thinking like an oversized nameplate to go above the door. I mean, I don't know. I was honestly thinking like something like this wide and this tall would be appropriate for that type of space. Honestly, I haven't fully figured it out how big they'll be, and we'll have to do a little bit more market research to see what other people are offering. But literally, this is just something so that when somebody comes up to the property, they know which office to go to.
It could be something as simple though as just tenant lettering on the glass door or something as well, potentially. Maybe, right?
Yeah.
Cool. But either way, that affects the sign ratio, right? The total square foot sign ratio.
So, the signs are an issue. The question is, I think each tenant is going to need to be directed to the maximum size of some placard or whatever that they would have, either above the door, beside the door, or on the door itself. So, we should come up with that dimension, that their outside dimension is, that's in addition to whatever kind of signage they work out with you on the north side of the building. Someone may come to you and say, I want to sign on the north side of the building, advertise my space, because you've got like 5 bands right there that you have access to if this is approved. So, and we define that in the code and so on and so forth, so we're okay with that. But I think we need to understand that some sort of a placard sign would be on the east side.
Was that your intent though? That those extra sign bands along the north side would include a larger Guardian sign that could be seen from the highway or something, but also flex space tenant signage along the north side?
No, and it's just not practical from the standpoint of these incubator space tenants are going to be transient in nature. They're not going to be part of our development full time, so we will not be using that north elevation to put up signs for their businesses. I think it would be disjointed. It would be inconsistent from a look standpoint. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I was simply thinking the nameplates above their doors, or as you suggested, the writing on the doors.
So, Fred, would it be sufficient on the conditions basically to specify red line with staff as far as the temporary tenant signage?
On the east.
It seems like something that
Right.
you and the applicant can sort out.
I mean,
Okay. It's not like they're right on the edge of a square footage limit or something that's going to change everything else. So, okay.
I guess I would be interested in a condition that there is no tenant signage on the north elevation.
And we'd be fine with that.
Okay. I'm sorry, Fred, you had additional presentation.
Another item that we went through with the applicant was their lighting plan, and in the staff report talks about some issues. We felt that their initial lighting plan was too bright, and so they cut it back by quite a bit. We still end up with some hot spots along the drives into the building, but these areas are hot spots are right around the light itself. And so we felt that the amount of excess light in there is small, according in terms of our standards. But they are on the interior drive, so we pretty much felt that was okay. The property line standard, which is 0.1 foot candle, that's met in its entirety around the site. And then when you get to the south side, there are a few hot spots there, but they're also, the lighting there is mitigated by, in terms of incidences on the south, mitigated by the landscaping. But the amount that it's over there on the south side is actually, small as well. In the entryways, the only overlap we have is up in the flex space area where you've got a parking lot standard, which is 3-foot candles, but you have an entryway standard, which is 5. So if they're at their entryway, it's usually a little brighter. So that has a tendency to spill into the parking lot, but it's only right around the lights themselves. And so in terms of from our perspective, that's fine because it really is, they have the ability to have a little brighter light by the entryway for the nighttime. Where we get into a little bit of an issue that we talked about, just that was addressed here a little bit, is that they are open. The storage part is open until 10 p.m. at night, and then at some point we were thinking that those lights should be turned off as half hour after they close, or maybe it's hooked up to the last person out within a half hour after the last person out of the storage area. They go through the gate, that those lights are turned off. But now there's the issue has come up. Well, the people in the flex space, they stay there until all hours of the morning, and our initial condition was that those lights, the entryway and so on, would be turned off, I believe, in our condition at midnight. So we need to address that a little bit, and as to how that might work or not work. It may be that after you discuss that, it may be that condition is not used at all in terms of the entryway lights. If people are going to be there until the wee hours of the morning and they're in the flex space units. I don't know if any of the other consultants have any comments at all, but that's about the only items I wanted to bring up. But it looks like Alex has a comment.
Yeah, just to address your comment about improvements on 76th Street. Alex Arenello, LSC, Town's Traffic Consultant. To remind you, what we're doing on 76th Street, we're narrowing down the section from what it is south of Sycamore. Sycamore, I think, is 54 or 60 feet, and right now it's striped 4 lanes. And that was, built when we had grandiose plans that 76th Street would be a 4-lane roadway. So we're going to be transitioning, this will be 36 feet wide. We're adding some pavement on the west side, so we'll end up with a 36-foot section. But we're going to have, a period now, because we're going to have improved section, and it's going to be unimproved, and then improved section here, and then unimproved. So that's not going to look too well for a number of years until the intervening, properties develop. So that's where we're going to end up. And just as a note, we are looking at maybe restriping 76th Street and perhaps putting on-street parking near the Town 9 Park and eliminating the lane and using that for parking, narrowing the street a little bit. So that's the plans for 76th Street. I don't know if that answers your questions.
So in the course of narrowing it, though, you're going to leave enough room for bike lanes?
It could be bike lanes, or it could be a center turn lane, but I don't think we really need that. So eventually, when we have 36 feet, there'll probably be 2 travel lanes and a bike lane on each side was probably a good section. Or if we need parking, we also have that possibility. But there's no need for parking on the east side because there's nothing to go to. But if we have a different, I don't know what the development over here, whether we need on-street parking. He's provided plenty of parking for those units. If you get more flex units, do you want on-street parking? So there is some flexibility there. In the short term, you could put parking on that because that section adjacent to your development is not really going to be used. We really can't stripe it for a turn lane. So that widening is just going to be sitting there kind of unused on that side.
Yeah, the number of vehicle trips, even with this development, isn't terribly dramatic. It's a couple hundred a day,
350
most or something, right?
350 trips.
Yeah. Okay.
I had one other comment. There was some. They made a
a point that possibly the southern half of Building 1 could become more flex space, right?
Yes.
Okay, the only point I have there, if that's the case, that changes a little bit, and so if, when they come in, we need to talk to them about how, and let's say they're going to add flex space, we need to analyze the parking at that point again. So maybe the applicant can address that.
Well, if the demand presents itself, I mean, right now, the plan is not to do that.
Right.
In this plan, the way it will be, the way it will move forward, I assume if we want to add flex space, we would have to come back to the town with an amendment to the plan, at which case we would have to revisit these issues.
Yeah, we would want to, yeah, we can do that, deal with that amendment in a couple of ways. We can either do it through a full amendment, or we'll do it with an administrative amendment, depends on the impact that, or what you plan to do. So we'll have to make that judgment call when you come in with that one.
Yeah, certainly, and we understand that if, if we decide to do that, it would,
Right.
it would be a process with the town that we would have to go
Okay.
through.
Anything else from staff?
This point had come up earlier in some presentations, but I just wanted to indicate that before.
Could you state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Rick Gonsalves, RG Consulting Engineers, town engineer. What they had for their drainage was very detailed to the south, and it goes along into the detention pond up to the east. But there was some comment before that it was a little unclear how the drainage was going to be carried from off-site and around to the north. It was originally it was just a little bit loose up there, and it was going to spill over the street. So they have tightened that up, and drainage will come around and head, and it'll be channelized on the south side of A Street, and then be picked up in a storm sewer to be carried around to the east side of the detention pond, the storm sewer there, so that A Street and that intersection will not be impacted by adverse drainage. I think that was
Would there
brought
be
up.
any impact of the unimproved, from the drainage, like flowing into the street or anything on the unimproved sections of 76th Street?
No, this is the
In
drainage
the
coming
meantime-
from off-site on the west side,
Yeah?
and then flowing around to the north, around the building. That drainage will be carried on site and will be carried in a ditch on the south side of A Street, or the unimproved part of A Street.
Right, okay.
Up to the point where it is improved, be picked up in an inlet and then carried to a storm drain. I could show that to you if I had the pointer.
Sorry, I understand.
So that has been cleaned up nicely, so that was brought up a couple times, I think, before us.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Questions of staff?
Fred, could the entryway lighting thing be solved by a motion detector on a timer?
Well, I'm not a technician in lighting. I mean, electronically, I think you can do a number of things. That's possible. I mean, I think what we need to do is have them address that somehow. If we get to the point where we want to have some, if we want to allow the lighting to stay on all night, well, that's one thing. If we want to have it to be go on or off, if people enter, or that's another thing. I assume electronically you can do a number of things, but I'm not sure. Technically, I'm not sure how that is done or if it can be done.
There's a restriction, I think, on the town center about the signage lighting going off at a certain time. Is that, I'm correct about that, right?
It depends on, there's different requirements for different users. So some of the pads have different times for turning their lights on.
Depends on your south-facing.
Yeah, I guess they're generally related to the tenants that face to the south, right?
Yeah.
And there's not signage in their case that's facing toward the residences, right?
Assuming isn't it north-south facing signs, or?
All the signage is on the north.
The monument sign goes east-west, so the faces face north and south.
Right, and is that a lit sign?
Yes.
So then, yeah, it'll face south to the, to the residents.
Does
So if that turns off. at
Target and
10 o'clock.
Costco, their
doesn't.
lights, do their signage lights go off?
Costco does turn their lights off.
I should make a point. I mean, we generally do not keep our signage on 24 hours anyway. I believe, it's on a photo cell, so it comes on at a certain time. Then we generally program it to go off, I think, at midnight. Then the photo cell comes back on at like 6 a.m. But the monument sign, I mean, even though it's lit, it's minimal, and it won't be visible by the neighbors to the south. I mean, if they looked out their window, they'd probably be able to see a sign there. I'm not going to deny that, but it would not cause, the amount of light that goes into it wouldn't cause light pollution to the residents.
I'm just contemplating, just making some point about at what time the signage should be turned off. Consistent with other things happening, like near the marketplace, not the marketplace.
Typically, it's midnight. Some have agreed to 10:30, and then there's some that, like we have in here, 1/2 hour after closing.
That kind of makes the most sense. I mean, there's no sense leaving the sign on if you're closed anyway. Especially for that one, because it's not.
Yeah, for the monument sign, again, that's not creating visibility to our project. I mean, we're more concerned from a recognition standpoint on the signage to the north and the traffic on Highway 36. So, I mean, it's just a question of setting a photo cell to the monument sign to go off at a certain time. And if that was important to everybody to have that happen, it's really not an issue for us.
Is the sign on the north face lit as well?
Yes.
That's what-
Yeah.
Actually, I did have one other question too, actually, about your security lighting. You said there were motion detector lighting. Is there like wall packs or security lighting that's on the west side of the project? That
I don't.
no, okay,
It's on the outside of the building?
yeah.
No. Why would you?
Well, just do you have video surveillance?
Yes.
Right. Do you survey the west
No.
side of the property?
No, we
Surveil.
we cover all the drive lanes and the entrances contained within the property.
Interior.
Yep.
No. Not a prison or anything.
No.
Security. Understand.
Matt, were there any concerns about this phasing that relates to Phase 1 and Phase 2 in the year and a half that's going to take place? And you're going to end up building the pads for 3 and part of 1 possibly in preparation for the second phase. And there's going to require a lot of sill fencing and drainage issues. Has that been taken into account? Does it matter to you guys?
Yeah, we looked at the phasing plan and the erosion control measurements that we would need, and I think we're satisfied. Rick can add to it if he wants, but we're satisfied that with the phasing plans in place, we
Okay.
don't have any concerns.
It's
There's
going to
a-
be interior to the development. So
Right,
If
it'll
they
be-
want to, if they want to.
Well, you have this picket fence, so you're going to have this look into the site of sill fencing and dirt pads. They're not going to landscape it, I know that.
We still have unfinished pads at the marketplace too. So. Yeah. Questions? Anyone else? This is the opportunity. Anyone in the public like to come forth and address the commission on this development? Okay, seeing none. Applicant have anything final you'd like to say at this point? Okay. I think with that, we'll close the public hearing. Any discussion from the commission?
I wasn't here for anything, so I can't really discuss.
You're here now.
Doesn't work that way.
Okay. No need to apologize. Anyone?
I guess on the tenant signage for the incubator space, I would be in favor of vinyl lettering on the glass only. I think the putting signs up on the building, I would guess that about half of the tenants wouldn't care about signage anyway. And I think having additional signage would look kind of jumbled, and I think it would look a lot better from the street, from the developer's perspective, if it was just on the glass and it's easily changeable in between tenants. And I just think that'd be a better look for the project.
I kind of have a different opinion. As a business owner, I find signage to be important, and I know that listening to businesses in Superior, there's a big complaint about the lack of the ability to put signage, and they can't get their businesses out there. I know we're not talking about high visibility retail space, but I don't think we need to put any restrictions on, well, not any, no restrictions, but reasonable restrictions on signage for the individual tenants. I would be okay with a sign above the door, on the door above it. As a business owner, even in a Class A, B kind of office strip that I'm in now, it's nice when people come in that it's just easy to spot our office. Again, this is small, so it's probably not a big deal. And the 5 bands on the north side, although there's no intent to put signage for tenants, I also don't see a need for us to restrict it. If it's desired and there's a benefit and they get a high visibility tenant who's willing to maybe take a couple spots and it's a good economic value for them and they're going to be there and it works for them and they want a sign over there and they want to provide it, I don't know. It just seems like an unnecessary restriction. It doesn't sound like they want to do it anyway. So I'm just in favor of signage. I think that we kind of put some heavy restrictions on monument signs and things, and it's created some difficulty in town. But within reason, I would be okay with that. I am interested in continuing to promote alternate transportation and bike lanes, places for bikes to be parked is important. I think we should be doing that for every business, every development that comes in. We ought to be just requiring that there be a place for bikes to be locked, put in place if we're going to have employees and potentially tenants there. So I would like to see that. And then the landscaping on the south side, although I don't know, though, I'm not of the opinion that we need to necessarily write anything in or make it a requirement, but I think I would just like to voice a request that if it's reasonable to put in some little more mature landscaping on that side just to help buffer the Sagamore development view on that side, and if it's reasonable to do it, I'd appreciate it. You guys have been very responsive. I just think it would be nice to not wait 10 to 20 years till that thing matures. If we cut that back a little bit, I think it'd be great. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I thought they did a real good job of reevaluating the project. I can remember being concerned the first time around with all the square footage being jammed into the site and accessing being a problem. The corrugated metal panels that you allude to on the elevations, you can get a pretty busy-looking building from the elevations you got drawn there, so take that into account. With the Guardian blue I was asking about, other colors. So, otherwise, I thought you did a real good job.
Anything else? Okay.
I think so. I think signage is still.
Yeah, we need to straw vote some signage.
Yeah, I guess we do.
I don't have a problem with Commissioner McCool's comments about as far as laissez-faire with the north elevation signage, but others may disagree.
I'm in favor of
consensus of that.
the panels, individual panels above the door rather than just stenciling on the doors, and then the weather gets to them and they start to peel, and it just, I think, I don't know if we need to set parameters.
Put it on the inside of the door.
I know, but even then,
it's still,
it doesn't last.
Well, I think your comment about having it be potentially be irregular can be avoided if we have it predefined, or have them predefine it with staff and
Right.
have strip
I
signs.
guess I
like
would
we
just
talked about.
say that, we'll kind of throw this back into the architect's
Mm-hmm.
court to just work with staff on what's the appropriate amount of signage you want. I mean, I know, I'm sure you guys probably want, a consistent look to the development as well, and even if somebody has a unique small sign or something, as long as it's consistent in size with the adjacent, the adjacent tenants. I can imagine you having two tenants at one time and 3 empty, or something, some mix there and all the time where some of those are empty. And so, maybe to the extent that you have your own thing you slide in that says Guardian or something, so there's always a sign or something. I don't know. I mean, you guys can kind of work through that. I think I'm certainly comfortable with that too.
Yeah, it's more a matter of
Whatever.
it was more of a nameplate, wasn't it?
Yeah, you could say available or something. I mean, something appropriate that's
but it needs
meets
to
the sign
get
code.
defined with staff. So
Yeah.
we'll get that in there.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what and the north side signage preference on a straw vote standpoint. I mean,
I'm okay with it as long as, they're going to have to stay within code, as long as it stays within code, and they don't want to do something distasteful to the whole look of their project, since it's really their project. And that signage would be a minimal piece of it. I would think approval to.
and the signage would be consistent in color or something too.
Right.
It was eliminated,
It's a
right?
standard.
That
Developed.
seem reasonable.
Yeah.
You can have a
They said they don't want to do signs on the north side.
I
so
know,
it doesn't.
but
No reason to restrict it.
we're just saying, are we going to restrict it or not?
You're the only one that said you're restricted.
Well, just one voice up here, so I'm just trying to straw up. Okay, so I think the sense is to not
Leave it alone.
Do
not-
anything on
yeah.
any signage.
Yeah.
Monument signage off by midnight. Is that sufficient, or do we want to be more restrictive?
I read something about something being off at 12:30 and something on at 10:30. I can't remember what that 12:30
Yeah,
was.
we suggested that the interior drive lanes the light be turned off by 10:30, and then the parking lot and entry lights be turned off by midnight.
It says dimmed after midnight. Did you mean that?
Yes.
Okay.
It seemed like some motion sensor to bring those up if somebody
Sounds like
comes
that's
in.
already part of the project from a security standpoint.
Yeah.
No. Sorry.
No.
You can just listen to us drawing.
Yeah, we're just drawing our own conclusions.
Making up stuff as we go.
But we could work with the applicant as far as.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got that.
Okay.
All right.
Got it.
You need to get into this. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And then just real quick comment about the landscaping to the south and east or west elevations. What you see there on their landscape plan, what you see up there on the south elevation is, we counted up real quick, those larger evergreen trees, there's about 10 of them, and their minimum size installed is 10 feet.
Oh, I thought it said 5.5.
It says 10.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Okay, I would be okay with that.
decent.
I thought I saw 5.5 feet for those.
Yeah, there's some on there that are, 5.5 feet.
Okay.
But.
Okay.
The main clustering.
The larger ones are minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got,
So-
we've got 24 of these pines that are 10 to 12 feet.
Okay. I'm good with that then. Thank you.
So no need to further emphasize, make changes to that. Okay. Okay.
Must be time to vote.
All right. Should I dive in?
Sure.
Move to approve resolution number PC-2, Series 2010, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Superior, approving a final development plan for Guardian Storage Solutions, case number FDP 2009-1, with the following conditions.
Is that
question?
Sorry, FDP 2009-1?
Yes.
Since it got started.
Came in
Is it
2000.
okay.
This one.
And it was the first one of 2009.
I just thought this was FDP.
All right. Condition number 1, make minor technical and red line corrections to plans as identified by staff. Number 2, drive lane wall lights are to be turned off 1/2 hour after closing. Entry lights and parking lot lights to be dimmed after 12 a.m. Number 3, monument signage lighting to be switched off by midnight, no later than midnight. Number 4, to work with town staff to define maximum tenant signage size and locations. And number 5 is to add appropriate bicycle parking as agreed to with staff.
I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Hinkle, second by Commissioner Prestisator. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? It's unanimous with Commissioner McInnes abstaining.
Abstaining.
Okay. Okay, it passes, thank you. Moving on to item 6, staff announcements and miscellaneous.
Yeah, just, sure. At an upcoming board work session on February 22nd, the board will be looking at the Community Park East project, or I think it's called Three Parks now too, so whichever name you want to use, but that's on the February 22nd work session. If anybody's interested, let me know. We can get you a copy of the plans and if you want to come down and make comments. The board adopted by emergency ordinance a moratorium on any new marijuana dispensaries, even though we have none. But because of some state legislation is pending and some lawsuits that have taken place with the city of Centennial, they decided best to put a moratorium on them so we could address any language changes that we might want to make. And so that will, at some point, be coming forward to the Planning Commission to consider. And specifically...
So wait, we don't comment on town capital improvement projects, but we do comment on dope.
Well, this is a zoning change.
Okay.
Yeah. Zoning language, where we want them, how far away we want them from schools and everything else. So that will be coming forward at some point to the Planning Commission.
I think if we thought we could get some significant tax revenue, we might consider.
Well, there's
No, that came up.
Just
Put it next to Baskin Robbins.
Right.
I'm seeing a major grow operation going right in town here, man.
That's indoor space.
The discussion has been to zone
Climate control.
same way we do sexually oriented businesses. So.
Oh, you mean like don't talk about it and pretend it doesn't exist?
Yeah. Well, in Superior at least, right?
No speak.
Across the highway.
And then, right now, we don't have any active planning or development applications, so we're going to refocus on, for the Planning Commission, refocus on Chapter 16. So.
Do you want to talk about what you, your little exercise?
Sure. I went through the items for possible consideration list and just kind of looked at them line by line, and the majority of them I think we should revisit again. I mentioned this in the last meeting, that we should at least go through that list again before we take all of this to the public hearing, because there's a lot of notes in here, further comment by staff needed or further information by staff needed. I remember something about a landscaping plant question or something I had, and we pulled that aside, and to me that doesn't need to go to public hearing. It just needed further clarification. So I guess I just wanted to reiterate that I would like to see this board go through this list again, just to make sure we have things that are indeed material changes or significant changes to the code that need to go to public hearing, but not take 4 meetings for a public hearing that is stuff that we just need to iron out ourselves.
We talked about that too. We made the suggestion. Staff has discussed that, because you made the suggestion last time.
Right.
And from our point of view, I think that's a good idea. It's kind of up to the planning commission, but we think it's a good idea.
Let's put it on, let's do that next, if you think that's
We got to
the
do
next step.
1 through 5, finish that off, and then we would look at, maybe we can do them both at one night, I don't know, but then we would do that.
Okay.
Get ourselves ready.
Seems reasonable now.
Okay.
And then just one last thing. ConocoPhillips, the last we heard from Louisville was that they were going to submit their development application to the city of Louisville. And I think that was this week, last I heard. So Chairman Craig Kraft had requested maybe, and I think Commissioner McCool had mentioned, if we can get an opportunity for them to come down and present to the Planning Commission. So we're working on that. I'm working on that, trying to see if they're available, at least to come down for a half hour or something, make a presentation. So
Yeah, it was part of our 2010 work plan.
Right,
So I was
yeah.
trying to move that along and see if we can accomplish that. And if, that means we meet with them whenever, whatever's appropriate.
They did invite the open space groups from Superior, Louisville, Broomfield, and Lafayette to a meeting a few weeks ago and presented their concept plan, and they're building clustering, some of their trails plans. They got a lot of feedback from the different
in
areas for
retrospect,
the
I think
trails.
that would have been great if we could have participated in that, but
yeah, and I wasn't involved in that. It was specifically directed to the open space
I understand.
committees, but I understand.
that's what prompted
Yeah.
my thoughts about it. So.
Have you seen
But I
the
assume
proposed
our
plan
open
here?
space group gave a lot of feedback, right, Bob?
What's that now?
Our open space group provided a fair amount of feedback.
Yeah, every town did actually provided quite a bit of feedback. And I think there were some realizations that that's a very large development, by the tune of like 1 mile by 2 miles, and, pedestrian movement through there is not very likely. It's all 100% secured with guard-gated access and da-da-da-da. But they're putting some nice trail systems around the outside to provide some connectivity, and they're looking at the issues with Monarch, who has their 5K on that property now, and trying to get that addressed and working with them. So they've been pretty responsive.
There was a comment too, I think, that was brought up about pedestrian accessibility. If somebody chose to live in Superior and they wanted to walk to work, how would they access the site? And so I don't know if they're considering that or not. But
There is. I believe there's gated access off of 88. Goes crossing, goes in. And that's one of the guard point access, and then on the other side as well.
Has there been discussion about their desire to put some sort of ramps on 88th Street to 36?
Yeah, initially when they first purchased the property, they were really interested in putting something there. Then I think they kind of backed off after some more internal site planning, plus the cost of doing that. So right now, I don't get any indication they're pursuing that.
That'll really be horrible. And I would strongly support us to absolutely in no way support that effort. So
It's a high cost project, so.
Yeah, I know.
And then,
it's also that we looked at it a long time ago, trying to get access for a Vista, at least from the westbound, one off-ramp at westbound 36 and one on-ramp at eastbound 36 or something like that. And CDOT said it was too close to the next exit up, so we couldn't anyway. But the more I think about that, my kids ride their bikes on 88th Street every day to Monarch, and I can't imagine, putting a freaking interchange in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
So-
last we heard that they felt that the interchanges at McCaslin in 96 were adequate, plus, access from north were adequate for us.
Speaking of on-ramps and one exit up, is there any more, any interesting news with the potential loop access onto 36 up McCaslin over on the Louisville side?
Yes. So it was not included in the completed environmental impact study that was done. What was included in that was the double left onto westbound US 36. There's still discussion amongst the board as far as how to fund that possibly and move forward with it as an independent utility like we did with the southwest. So haven't given up on it. But
Double
it wasn't included in the FEIS.
From Louisville? No.
No, from Superior to Boulder.
The bridge
Oh,
is
right,
wide enough
yeah.
for that?
No, it would have to be wide.
Oh, that'll be cheap.
The whole point of doing that initial on the right, for the right-hand exit, of course, was the improvement in the traffic, but also so we wouldn't have to widen the bridge, right? We went through this exercise.
Yeah, Alex has been.
Right?
So, and not only that, but wouldn't that just double the potential number of accidents that are already freaking horrible at that intersection?
And that's why we
No,
have to
because
go
it's only a
restricted
left turn arrow now.
because of
and
the
I have
accidents.
feelings about that as well, yeah.
That's annoying.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Oh, my God.
Right, and,
Whose idea was that, Alex? The stupid left turn arrow on the bridge.
The 100%
That was
left turn.
request,
I don't mind the arrow, it's the 100% of the time.
Alex.
move
Hang
this
big things, I like
northeast
them.
loop forward.
Guys lose their jobs for stuff like that.
No, we put that protected arrow in at the request of the State Patrol. We've been monitoring accidents. I think we had 16 or 20 broadside accidents up there in 2 years. So we experimented with.
That's not even one a month, Alex.
We experimented.
You know how
with,
much longer it takes to get to Boulder now, Alex?
Right. We experimented with doing the protected during certain periods, and then decided to go to 24-hour operation.
Control the people, that's the way.
So right now, we're pretty much, we've kind of maxed out that northbound left movement in the morning peak hours. So we're kind of there, and then, so we're sitting here now maybe for 30 years with that issue. So we're not giving up on the northeast loop, and we have laid out a plan that takes some right of way, but doesn't take any businesses or anything. And we think we have a plan that would work and would fit in with the managed lane concept, would still fit under the McCaslin Bridge.
What was the rough
But
price for that?
we have to convince CDOT, we have to convince the city of Louisville to do
What's
that.
the cost of that
What's the cost? It's around $6.5–7 million,
today? And what's the cost of widening the bridge?
probably $15 million.
Yeah, and we
And a
argued.
2.5 year, 2
We
year.
argued with the city of Louisville and CDOT and lost.
Why don't we just take the bridge out?
Well, we don't. We need our sales taxes.
Oh, good point. We'll just,
Costco, how are they going to get to Costco?
Put the interchange at 88.
Yeah, put the interchange at 88.
Arvada and Jeffco are moving forward with some preliminary additional planning on 470. Is that
No.
Yeah, Dr. Cog recently had a vote where it was included in the future transportation improvement plan. So,
Golden's pretty happy about that, are they?
huh? Yeah.
Cousins rule.
on 83? The way they've got
I know.
Yeah, it was highly contested.
Eight lanes
public
wide.
hearing, so, and vote, but it was included, so it's moving forward at least.
What a mess that's going to be. Okay, are we
Okay.
done now?
Are we done? Anyone else? Anyone?
Yeah.
Bueller? Okay, I think that's it. Thank you. We're adjourned.